Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be reviewing the new AEV Wrangler. This is a JL370. Before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Dodge Ram Jeep Chrysler here in Sandy, Utah for giving me some time with this Jeep. I'm going to include a link to their website in the description down below so you can check out what they have currently. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Powering this is a 3.6 liter V6 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs are 285 horsepower and then 260 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the hood, you guys can see they've added this little like AEV decal there, which is pretty cool. This is built off of Rubicon, so that's why you have the venting. And then of course you got AEV there on the windshield. But the cool part is once you pop down below. So you guys can see this one has the upgraded LED lights here, and then you've got the new grille, which I think looks really cool. But anyways, we've got these lights that AEV has added. They obviously have the protection here on the outside when you're not using them. We also have a winch added to this bumper, and I love how it like raises up. And notice how they actually move the camera here with this bumper to help out with visibility, because obviously there's a lot of stuff that could get in the way of where the stock camera is, which is right here, as you can see. I mean, you would literally see nothing. Anyways, aside from that, you still have fog lights here built into this bumper, and I mean, this thing, as sturdy as it gets. Putting it all together, it looks so cool. Like, this is what an off-roader should look like. Now, popping around the side here, we've got 37s, hence the JL370 and the name. But anyways, it's 37 by 12.5 by 17, if you're wondering. And these wheels just look so cool. Now, these are BF Goodrich tires, all-terrain tires. You guys can see the tread pattern on them and everything. I will say, I really do like these tires off-road. They get really good grip and everything. I've had them on several vehicles. And then another part of this is obviously changing the springs, but also these shocks. You guys can see we've got these shocks. These are specially tuned for this particular Rubicon. So depending on the powertrain you get will determine the shocks that you get. So you can see the rest of these set up over here. We'll kind of talk about how this feels more so when we drive it. But yeah, it's cool how custom this setup is. And then we have a replacement, I guess, for the badges. You guys can see AEV here, and it's out of Montana, so it says Montana, USA. And then Proven Worldwide badge. And taking a few steps back, you guys can see with the 37s and the lift and everything, I mean, this Wrangler just looks amazing. And then here's a quick look at the shock setup in the rear as well. Now in the very back here, you guys can see we've got a 37, still have a really nice wheel just like the rest. And then we actually have an extra storage area for gasoline, and notice how this is all connected in down here, as you can see. And then we've got an aftermarket bumper integrated with parking sensors and all of that. And taking a few steps back, you guys can see that all put together on the back end. Again, it just has that cool like off-road adventure appearance because of that. And then of course there is an AEV badge here in the back. Now popping inside, here on the door panel they didn't really change anything, but notice that this particular Wrangler has blind spot monitoring for those of you that are wondering. And then they actually do update the payload sticker, so 620 pounds of payload because of all the stuff that's been added to this. Normally it's like 850 with Wranglers. But the coolest addition is the AEV headrest, and then we have these custom leather seats, and yes, same thing here in the back, AEV on the headrest, and then the custom leather seats, which look really cool. And then the other thing, if I pop in here, you guys can see AEV on the gauge cluster. So that's also been swapped out as well. But the rest of this is normal 24 JL. So we've got, here, I'll pop that on. You got the new infotainment system. As you can see, you got the new kind of design there on the dash. And then since this is built off of Rubicon, front and rear lockers, sway bar disconnect, we've got, you know, an advanced 4-wheel drive system, all this stuff you need to do Jeep stuff. So this is the window sticker before the AEV kit has been added. So it's a relatively loaded up Rubicon, 63,000 original MSRP after all options. And then popping over here, you guys can see the AEV stuff that has been added to it. So here is the bulk of it right here. So you can see they changed quite a bit. And then notice we do have some options added to this particular one as well. And so you guys can see after all options, 92,000 $328 is the total MSRP. Also, AEV, I found this hilarious. They let you know the stuff that you didn't get. So you have a reminder on your window sticker. You could have gotten more, but you didn't. Anyways, let's see how it drives. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's visibility over the hood, both the mirrors, just do a blind spot monitoring, and through the rest of the rear. And let us set off in this AEV Wrangler. Really excited to test this out. The shock setup on this is it's pretty crazy. Like, I'm serious. So like what AEV did is they partnered with Bilstein, obviously, and they had Bilstein build out shocks that were calibrated for the Wrangler depending on the weight that it has, so the engine and all that kind of stuff. And AEV does let you get different springs depending on what you're going to do. So like this one, I'm pretty sure has this, it looked like it had the standard springs. You can also get like high load springs, which are going to ride firmer, but that's, you know, the springs you get if you're going to be putting on a lot more equipment on the Jeep that's going to weigh a lot more, so that's going to, the springs are going to be better for that. So it's super customizable. But anyways, see, like I said, Bilstein tunes the shocks for the Wrangler. So like if you have a V6, you have different shocks than the 4xe, and you have different shocks than the 2.0 turbo and the 392. They're all different. So I think that's pretty cool. And I won't name any names, but it's a lot better than what some other companies do that modify these Wranglers. It's a lot more work put in, and that's why these AEV, you know, Wranglers, they last so long. You know, and you shouldn't just say AEV Wrangler. You just look at the AEV stuff, and it holds up really well over time, because they spend a lot of time with making sure it's really high quality. But anyways, first off, what you'll notice when you drive one of these is obviously king of the road feel. Is super tall, but also it handles really well, despite the fact that it's super top heavy, right? I mean, it's a Wrangler first off, and it's a lifted Wrangler with 37s. So this shouldn't handle all that well, but these shocks help out quite a bit with on-road handling. They firm things up a bit, so then it just makes it so that everything's a little bit sharper, a little bit tighter with the handling. V6 is not doing too bad to move these 37s. Yeah, and you don't get as much like it still does kind of, you know, do the Jeep like wallow back and forth, but it's not nearly as prevalent. Like, I own a 392, and I can tell you that thing wallows all over the place. This, on the other hand, it's a lot tighter, it's a lot sharper. Like turn in there, it feels really sharp. So I think that's good. Was gonna get an acceleration, but this Grand Cherokee decided to make my day sad. There we go, get into it more again. But yeah, really good. It's really good. I mean, I wouldn't call it fast by any means, but like, it moves it. For being a, you know, 3.6 liter V6 and having to move big old 37s, I think it's doing a really good job. This is comfortable too. Like, the ride quality is, you know, I don't feel like you really concede anything with the ride quality. It's very smooth. And let me see what tire pressure the 37s are at. In mid-30s. And I was gonna say, yeah, the tires aren't even aired down, and so if you aired these down to like mid-20s, I mean, it would be like cloud-like. Yeah, it feels so tight. The thing I like the most about this is just how tight it feels with the turn-in and everything. And I will say this, like, the other thing to note about this is everything, the build quality with the AEV stuff feels so good. I review a lot of aftermarket builds, and you know, some of them it's like, man, it doesn't feel like they're put together all that well. But this, fuel light of course, this, it really does feel like it's put together very well. Like, it feels like it's gonna last. There's no creaks or rattles or anything like that. So yeah, it just feels like a really solid product. So summing things up, I think this looks really cool. It drives really well. Obviously, it adds a ton of off-road capability, practical off-road capability, right? This is not just a you know, mall crawler, looks cool but doesn't actually do anything, right? It's got the looks, but it's also got the capability as well. And you know, over $90,000, it's a lot. It's a big chunk of change. And here's kind of my thoughts on this. So like, there are some people that'll buy this just because they think it looks cool and they've got the money, and fair enough. But my thought process on this is, if you're going to use this as it's intended to be used for, like taking it down, you know, we're here in Utah, taking it down to Moab and all that kind of stuff, it's worth it. The fact that you've got this like whole setup here, and again, it's all calibrated perfectly based on the weight and all of that with the shocks. Like, it's just, you are paying more, but you're getting more out of it. It's not like you're just paying, does that make sense? It's not like you're just paying a markup to pay a markup. So yeah, I think that really good build. I think it's worth it, especially if you're gonna do off-roading, because this is kind of like the build that you get and you have the peace of mind knowing that like you can be out in the middle of nowhere and the wheels aren't gonna fall off, or like, you know what I mean? It's not some of those, you know, crappy builds you get from other aftermarket companies. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about the AEV Wrangler, and let me know which powertrain you think is the best with this. I think, of course, 392, because that's always the most fun, but the V6 is a little bit more reasonable with the pricing.